You're listening to the Keep Optimizing podcast to increase your traffic, improve your conversion rates, and grow your profits.
Hello and welcome. If you are looking to improve the performance and return on investment of your marketing, then you are in the right place. I'm Chloe Thomas, the host of this marketing-focused podcast, and it's very, very cool to have you tuning in to what is just our second episode. So thank you for sticking around for number 2. Now, because this show is brand new, I'm running a competition where you could win a Keep Optimizing podcast t-shirt. Oh yes. Now stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out how to enter. In today's episode, I'm talking to Gavin Laugenie about preference centers, because this month we're all about email marketing. Yes, all 5 shows we're putting out in July, that's episodes 1 to 5, are about different aspects of email marketing. In today's episode, we're talking about a topic that I know a lot of marketers struggle to work out how to really use effectively. Given how rich it can make our segmentation and therefore increase our sales, we really need to know how to use preference centers better. And that's what Gavin's here to help with. We're just about to meet Gavin, but before we do, please do check out the sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Klavio, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform for email and SMS messaging. Whether you're launching your e-commerce business or taking your brand to the next level, Klavio gives you the tools to get growing faster. That's why it's trusted by over 38,000 e-commerce brands. Build your contact list, send emails that pop, and create marketing moments that build valuable customer relationships over any distance. Get started for free today. Visit klavio.com/masterplan to create your free account. That's klavio.com/masterplan. Today I'm chatting with email marketing expert Gavin Laugenie, Head of Strategy and Insight from Digital, which is one of the leading email service providers in the world. Now, Gavin has over 10 years' experience helping businesses of all shapes and sizes build their email marketing programs to increase customer lifetime value, loyalty, and, of course, ultimately return on investment. Hello, Gavin.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. You know what? The sun has just come out. That's great. It was grey just a second ago, but
It's a good sign for our conversation, I think.
it is a good sign, right? Yeah.
The sun is shining on clever email marketing.
There you go.
So, Gavin, how did you get into email marketing all those years ago?
All those years ago, as I was a kid, I always wanted to be an email marketer.
Really? Me too.
No, it totally fell into it, totally by accident. I was selling ad space into magazines for Haymarket once upon a time. And I was selling to this one business, and the woman I was selling to said, "No, we don't want that, but we kind of like the sound of you. I think you could come and work for us, and we do this thing called email marketing." I was like, "What is that?" And then totally fell into it. Got nothing to do with what I studied. I studied politics at uni, although I have to be kind of political with some clients.
I'm sure a grounding in politics comes in useful in all scenarios.
I think it helps for everything, doesn't it? But yeah, totally fell into it. It wasn't something that I'd thought of before. Email probably wasn't the force that it is now back then, all those years ago, probably about 15, 16 years ago. That was when I'd get on a call with someone and they'd say, "Oh, email marketing, isn't that spam?" Which kind of shows exactly where we are now, because I don't think anyone necessarily thinks of email in that particular way.
Yeah, I remember back at similar times to that. I remember I was running a marketing agency at the time, trying to sell email marketing services to retailers. And you go in and you go, "Wow, you've got a list of 30,000. Have you ever emailed them?" "No, all the email is spam. I'm never doing email." And you're like,
right?
I can't work with that. I'm not a good enough salesperson to work with that. But it's mind blowing now that people were just so closed off to it.
And now they actually see the benefits of it. That's probably because of an increase in the technology as well. And with that, it tends to bring along people's sort of understanding of what they can do. So, yeah.
Yeah, better times now. And you're here today to talk about preference centers and data, which is something which I know I was talking about 15 years ago, but the technology to do it was incredibly difficult. So it was one of those things you talked about in conferences, but you never actually really did. But now the tech is there to do it, and retailers are starting to embrace it, aren't they? So why should those listening be embracing the idea of preference centers?
I mean, let's be honest here. Why not just a crazy idea? Why not? Let's just ask the people that you're sending your messages to what they want. Crazy idea. And then once they tell you what they want, well, then maybe you can send them exactly what they're looking for, rather than guessing. It's one of those things where we always assume that we know better. We assume we know what our customers want. We even assume sometimes that we know who our audience are specifically. But we can never know. The only way we're going to know is through the data. The data never lies. It tells us exactly where we should be and what we should be doing. And preference centers help us get to that place. It is the natural progression for any business who has started off collecting either email addresses, phone numbers, whatever, to contact people. It's the next step is to find out exactly who these people are so I can market to them better. We're always striving to sort of get to that place where on a high street, the local high street, when you walked into the door and someone knows exactly who you are. We've got your Fishing Weekly. I don't know why Fishing Weekly came to my head, but I don't even fish. But Gavin, we got your Fishing Weekly magazine. The local store owner will know that about me. And, straight away I'm like, yes, I do need that. We lose that when we're not on a high street, but it is possible to gain that sort of high street feel, that personalized feel in a digital world. We're just, we're creating that feel that we get through the data we collect of people, and preference centers are the way that we develop that personal touch.
Because a lot of companies are trying to do that personal touch simply by looking at what people are doing rather than what they're telling you. So what's the added benefit of getting the telling you data, not just the they looked at shoes last week data?
This is a term that I sort of love, and it's creating your digital body language, because it's something that it helps to fuse the sort of implicit and explicit data. Again, going back to the same sort of experience you'd have in a store, and I always take this back in my head to when I used to work at the Gap. When I used to work at the Gap, you'd have a certain, you have like prejudices. Someone walks through the door, you can see how they're dressed, and you think, ultimately, I know what you're going to need. But then they make a beeline for a particular table and, or wall of denim or something like that. And then straight away, you're going to have to take what you can see about them, coupled with what they're looking at, to give them exactly what they need. And that's why just looking at that sort of implicit data that you have, people, going on your website and looking at particular things, that's one side of the fence. The other side is them actually telling you exactly what they want. And then you can fuse those two pieces together to get that digital body language, something that you'd be able to do offline pretty easily, and do it online in just the same way.
I love your example of the Gap, because it's like, you could be someone who walks in through the door, goes straight over to that wall of denim that you mentioned, and you go, the Gap person comes over to talk to you, and you as the customer go, I love your denim, but it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Which then either gives you the challenge of let me prove to you that it will fit as the salesperson, or it gives you, right, so what can I help you with today? We know you love the denim. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Which, unless you're actually having that conversation with the person,
exactly, yeah, your
behavior is giving them exactly the wrong piece. So do you like denim? Obviously, it's one of the questions we could ask in a preference center. But, is a preference center these days questions like, do you want emails weekly? Or is it, what products are you interested in? Or is it, do you want the sale and other emails? How do we structure that those choices that we give the customer, so we don't limit ourselves in the future, but we're still giving the customer segmentations we're actually going to use?
Yeah. There's so much in that question, because one of the main things you've got to ask yourself is, what am I willing to offer? I spoke about this with someone just yesterday, in fact, talking about cadence. Should I be putting in a preference center how often I'm going to send emails to people? Well, that gives you an instant issue, because let's say I'm going to send 5 emails a month. Let's say that for argument's sake. That means every time I send out an email, I'm going to have to tick off a box for you, Chloe. You've said 5 emails you want to get a month. I'm going to have to say, okay, I've sent 3 already. I've got another 2 that I can send you, but I've got another 5 that I want to send this month. How many of those should I send to you? That makes it so difficult, because you can never make a decision for that person what I should be sending.
And actually, customers they're not really thinking in terms of, I'm willing to get 2 emails from you a month. What they really want is 2 good emails from you a month. And to be honest, if you sent them 3 good emails, then they're not going to go, oh, I'm not going to read the 3rd one because I told you you're only allowed to send me 2.
Well, what defines a good email, right? You can't make that decision. You leave it to them. So if you give them options on, I don't know, promotions, specific information about particular products, nuances, whatever, and then maybe events. Oh God, events.
Interesting idea.
Anyway, so those 3 things, you give them those options and they tell you they want to hear about all 3. Well, then it's up to you then to deliver good content for each of those categories, and then give it to them. It's the same old experience we used to say. There's 3 things I owe you some money. There's an event I want to tell you about as well, and it's your birthday. Well, I don't want to give you the money because I'm give you cash. It's your birthday and there's an event later. I can't speak to you about those 2 things. I can only choose one of those. Well, what's going to be best for you? Well, actually, you're going to want to know about all of those 3 things. So if I give you the chance to be told that, then I know exactly what to deliver to you.
So for a successful preference center, then we're looking to enable the customer to answer questions, but that we're actually able to deliver on and that don't cause us a massive headache.
Yeah.
But I'm also getting the sense it's a less is more. So, those those preference pages, I shall not lead the witness. Those preference pages you get that take up the whole of a large desktop screen with endless boxes you can tick. That's not where we want to start with our preference center.
That's the key thing you just said there, where you want to start with it. I say, you always be testing and develop that preference center. Don't think whatever you start off with has to be what you remain with in 2 years' time, whatever. You can develop it and change bits and pieces and add along the way. But it's where you want to start. Ask those specific things that is going to be helpful to you and to the customer as well. It's just like when you're collecting data in the first instance, you don't want to ask too many questions of that person because they'll switch off. But if you ask the nitty gritty, the bits and pieces that are actually going to help both of you, then that's fine. But also, if they don't fill out bits and pieces, that could be a leading question to you as well. So if you ask, you've got like 6 questions on your preference center, but you find that only people are answering 3 of those. Well, it might mean that those other 3 mean nothing at all. So maybe that's a point for you to get rid of those and simplify even more.
You bring an interesting point into there, Gavin, which is you said when someone signs up, you might only ask them X, Y, and Z. So at which point do we give someone the preference center? And I guess, do we give it them all in one go?
Well, let me cop out on this one and say test it. Always test it. Always test it. That's the one thing you need to do. But what I would say is as to when to expose them to the preference center, it should be almost straight away. So you get them to sign up. Whether or not you're going to do double opt-in is up to you. So you get them to sign up, and then within the welcome program, the nursery program, whatever you want to call it, you have a link to it there. You say, this is what we're all about, to bring you into our world. But actually, in the same way, we want to know more about you as well. So tell us more about you, and this is where you can tell us more about you in the preference center. I think if you leave it any later than that, you lose that sort of connection with people, and you might not get them to fill out the preference center. But that's not to say that it shouldn't always be there in your campaign. I think if you're sending out your regular comms, in the footer, it should be there all the time. If you can make space for the real estate in the top of the page as well, great. I think it's always there. The greatest examples I've seen are ones that within your email campaign, you can actually see your preferences there. So if you do want to change it, you can see it straight away in your campaign. You can click on it and then go to the next step.
Nice. And you said about we have someone, they sign up on the website, so they give us their email address, they start getting the welcome or the nursery campaign to tell them about the brand. And at that point, you give them a link back to the preference center. So it's kind of an optional, not a forced part of the funnel.
Oh, yeah.
So they can ignore it if they want to. We're not.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't recommend doing a email sign up and you fill in your details and then the next page you land on is a preference center.
Well, this is the case for testing. So you can see then at that point in time whether or not the next step should be open for them to start filling out a preference center. In some cases, I've seen it that people get overwhelmed and they switch off straight away after sort of signing up. But test it. There's no harm in testing it. If it's wrong, then scrap that and you can move on to the next step. That's a great thing about working in this industry, that we can test things pretty quickly. If we can see we're getting a sort of an adverse reaction for having links to preferences straight away, then we don't use that. But you'll never know until you test it. So that's where I can cop out. But you do need to have those options available and seeing if it works for your particular audience.
And you mentioned, some of the best that you see are the ones where people are actually reminding people of the preferences they've chosen in each email. Have you got a couple of retailers we could all have a look at who are doing this particularly well?
I knew you were going to say that. I've gone blank now. You've got me. There was a magazine that I used to see all the time that I used to have that type of thing in there. I tell you, one who did have it and got rid of it for some strange reason was Marks and Spencer's. They used to have that in the foot of their campaigns, and then it just disappeared for some reason. I don't know why. So that
one
was
would hope testing.
One would hope testing,
not just someone looked at it and went, I don't like that, and got rid of it, which is probably what happened.
Yeah, well, I haven't said that. You said that.
Yeah, I said that. I'm allowed to say things like that. Right?
Yeah. There was. I'm trying to think of the name of the magazine that does it. Shortlist Media. That was it. Oh, I got there. Shortlist Media.
Yeah. They're the one of the free magazines that's given away on the Tube in London, back when we used the Tube in London.
When we used to use the Tube in London, yeah. But that was great because what they had was the days of the week that you would subscribe to, because they would cover different things on each day.
Yeah, they had like a tech day and a style day and a men's day and a...
Exactly. So you could see that in the footer of the email. So as you scroll down, you saw that you were ticked on, and if the tech day was unticked, you're thinking, oh, I need to hear about that. Click on that, opens up the preference center, away you go.
Yeah, that's the thing. It has to be easy for the customer to use as well as useful to us. I guess in some ways, the preference center is the space where we test out how well we understand the customer. And we give the customer to tell us how badly we understand them, because, like you said, if we set up a preference center initially and no one's ticking anything, then we've given them the wrong options. Yeah.
Well, the other thing as well is, and you might cover this in another podcast, but surveys as well. It kind of goes hand in hand. It's the same sort of thing. You're asking the audience what they'd like. So if you want to add more or take some stuff away from the preference center, why not just ask people what sort of things they're looking for?
A good way to get into it, isn't it, is to do a pure survey, which isn't influencing your data selections, where you say, you kind of test out your preference center first, so you're not accidentally creating a scenario where you're not allowed to email anyone about anything.
Exactly. Yeah. We're just not interested. Oops. Yeah, you've messed up there.
And are you a fan of a lot of companies, when you click unsubscribe these days, you go through to a preference center before you can unsubscribe? Is that good practice?
It's one thing you should be offering, which is again in the footer of the email. Is an option to unsubscribe, but right next to it, or amend your preferences. So it's one of the other. I think you should always give people the option to unsubscribe. But at the same time, if you highlight the fact that you might not be getting what you expect to be getting because you haven't filled out your preferences, well, then you should be seeing that too. Don't put any barriers up to people unsubscribing because people need to unsubscribe. But hopefully, the idea is by using a preference center, you reduce the numbers of people unsubscribing because you are getting exactly what you want. If you have got a preference center and it's being optimized and people unsubscribe, then there's no way you're going to save that person. But if you don't give them the option, they are definitely going to unsubscribe.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the things, isn't it? Preference centers are in the over the long term, they're about giving people better quality content, so they never even occurs to them to want to unsubscribe. But they also have that role to play in stopping them at the moment when they consider unsubscribing.
Yeah. You've got to make sure you're making or getting your point across. You've got some USPs. Explain to people what those USPs are, and hopefully they're highlighted in those categories that you're going to be putting into your preference centers.
Nice. Well, look, Gavin, we are going to pause for a second now for a reminder of our sponsors, and then we're going to be talking about the wider world of email marketing. We're going to let you let loose across everything.
Okay.
It's safe to say that most of us have been doing more shopping online lately. And if you're an e-commerce brand, that means you might be seeing more first-time customers. But once they've made that first purchase, how do you keep them coming back? Well, that's what Klavio is for. Klavio is the ultimate email and SMS marketing platform for e-commerce brands. It gives you the tools to build your contact list, send memorable emails, automate key messages, and more. Way, way more. Whether you're launching a new business or taking your brand to the next level, Klavio can help you get growing faster. And it's free to get started. Visit klavio.com/masterplan to create your free account. That's KLAVIO.com/masterplan. Okay, Gavin, so far we've gone deep into preference centers, but now you get to wow us with your insider knowledge about the whole of email marketing. So for the following questions, your answer can be anything to do with email marketing, which of course does include preference centers. So you can still mention preference centers.
Okay, let's limber up. Okay.
I can see you across the video. Guys listening, you can't see. He is literally limbering up. It's quite impressive. Gavin, you ready? You finished limbering?
I think I'm okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Cool. Let's start with the email marketing newbie advice. If we've inspired someone to take their first step with email marketing today, what do they need to know to give themselves the best chance of success?
To give yourself the best chance of success is fill the funnel. Make sure it's easy for people to sign up to receive your emails in the first instance. After that, it's open to you exactly what next steps to take. But if you don't make it easy for people to sign up, whether it's online or offline, do you remember offline? Whether it's online or offline, make it easy for them to sign up on your website, in your stores. SMS sign up as well. If you've got that functionality, make it easy for people to join your mailing list.
Excellent. Okay, now then, once you've started, of course, you've got to keep optimizing. So what's your favorite way to improve email marketing performance?
Split testing. It's easy, only because, again, as I said earlier, everyone always assumes they know best. Okay, let's take a subject line, for example. I'm trying to get more opens because more opens should lead to more clicks should lead to more traffic conversions, right? So I'm going to optimize my my subject lines, and I think this is going to be great. Okay, cool. But all you're doing is you're hypothesizing, right? So you need to take that hypothesis and give yourself some sort of control and a change to whatever the control usually is and test it out. But give yourself time to get results back properly. Don't just test for an hour. Test for a good 3 or 4 hours to make sure that change is bedded in, and then you can send to the remainder of the database. But that's not where it ends, right? People do one test and go, I cracked it. That's it. That's what works for me. No, continue testing and give yourself time to test. The one thing that is going to be really helpful to you here is getting yourself a bit of technology, digital, bit of technology that is going to make it easier for you, because testing isn't rocket science, but it's time consuming. And that will chop into your bottom line and ROI, which is why you're doing it in the first place. So
yeah, anyone out there who's still on a system which doesn't make split testing easy needs to move.
You need to straight away.
Yeah. And we should also say, whilst we're talking about split testing, we should say that you should be looking at the financial result of the split test, not the opens or the clicks. It's all about the money, because that's the only bit that matters.
Well, why do it? I tend to mention opens and clicks because I know that's what people are looking for. But you're right. Why do anything unless it's making you more money? If this is making you more opens and this is making you more money, well, then I know which one I'd be going for.
Yeah.
But, there you go.
Yep. Okay, the next question then is that it's impossible to improve our marketing unless we're monitoring the performance. But the list of stuff we could monitor can be overwhelming. So what for you is the number one email marketing KPI?
Oh, we just said it. ROI.
I just think we completely already covered it, haven't we? Money.
Yeah, ROI. Yeah. If you're not looking at that, then I don't know what you're looking at, really. It still gets me because brands always say, yeah, our open rate's really down. We're not getting the same open rates anymore. And then I ask, well, are you getting good ROI? And that's the kicker, because a lot of the time brands don't know how to calculate ROI.
I've got to ask you now, how would you calculate email marketing ROI then?
You can keep it really simple. You can just look at the revenue that the channel is generating, and you can get that quite easily. This is like really rudimentary. You can get the revenue that's being generated on Google Analytics or something, and then you can look at the number of people you're sending to, and just do a quick equation based on that. And then you can break it down even further to those who have opened. Then you can break it down even further to those who have purchased, and then you can get your value of email that way. So you've got a couple of different metrics there. And then if you want to, you can break it down even further to specific sources. So it could even be that email addresses that I've collected offline versus online, or in a pop-up versus in the footer of the page, or some third-party work that we've done with another business, like a collaboration or a competition, and then you can start to break it down by that. But those are very sort of simple, rudimentary equations that can give you ROI.
I like the way you've explained those, because I think in many companies, the cost of email marketing is just put as an overhead. It's like a number we pay each month. And then when people try and work out ROI, they get hung up on how do I divide the money that it costs us across the activity. Whereas actually, if you take the money out of the equation and you do it as a sales per cent, or a sales per open, or a sales per clicked, suddenly you've got a number you can use to compare everything without having to find a way to divvy up the cost, which I like those equations.
I mean, I still have to go into that anyway, but there you go. That's a really sort of simple way of doing it.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Is that sometimes you just need the simple equation, because you can get hung up on the complex one, and then you don't make any decisions, which, what's the point of a KPI if it doesn't help you make decisions?
Exactly.
Right, Gavin, finally, it's crystal ball time. What is coming up in the next 6 to 12 months that we should be getting ready for with our email marketing?
Right, I might be a little bit sort of controversial with this one. I don't know if it's controversial, but there are changes coming in terms of tracking and what we're able to track. It's not clear at the moment. It's pretty grey. I've spoken to a lot of different people as to what exactly is happening, and no one really knows. But it looks as though we're going to have to be completely open, honest, and transparent about what we're doing when we track people, which could mean that when someone clicks on an email, we don't know who that person is, or even that someone's clicked, if we're removing that tracking. So what we're going to have to do is be more, as I said, open, honest, and transparent about how we're using your data and why we're using it and what benefit that you're going to get off the back of it. So it's all about that sort of data exchange. Look, yes, we are tracking you, but the benefit of us tracking you is that you're going to get more relevant content. And the more relevant the content is, the less spam you're going to see. So, yeah.
I'm not going to push you to get into the legal stuff that's going on that's causing this, but essentially what we're talking about is the next step in the trend that's been GDPR and cookie laws and this data privacy thing. And it's now reaching the point where it's going to potentially affect, depending on how it all drills down, our email reporting.
Mm-hmm, potentially. I mean, it could just be a bit of a storm in a teacup, because let's look at cookie laws, for example. When you go on a website, how annoyed are you every time that you get this banner come up that says, "Oh, would you like to confirm what cookies we can track?" I don't care. That's typically what people do. Not everyone. I think the only people really that go into it and have a look at exactly what's being tracked are people like you and I, because we're interested. Everyone else is just like, well, this is annoying me and it's spoiling my browsing experience having this banner here. I just want to get rid.
Whilst we're on that, I'm going to rant for a second. The worst are the ones where I've told you can have all the cookie permissions you want, and I come back here every day, and every day you still give me the cookie permission pop-up. It's like, that's just the worst usability ever. Please stop doing that.
Oh, and you know what? This is almost like a good way to finish. Well, not finish exactly, but it goes right back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the experience you have in a local store. You walk into your local store and that person remembers you, and you have a great customer experience. That's what we're trying to deliver. So if you're taking that away from it all, it just spoils it, and people will start to go to places where they get that great customer experience, and they won't come to it anymore.
And of course, what we've found out with all these, as these legislations have come in, is that customers are perfectly happy to give us their data if it's improving their experience. They have no problem with it at all.
There you go. You should only be worried if you're trying to exploit their data or sell their data, which, anyway.
Yes, let's save that for another podcast.
let's sidestep that one.
Right, Gavin, we are pretty much at the end of the show. So could you please let the listeners know a bit more about .digital and where they can find you?
Yep. So we are .digital. Engagement Cloud is our platform. I probably shouldn't have to say this anymore, but people might remember us as .mailer. We are we're a platform that allows people to connect with their customers on whatever platform it is, e-commerce, CRM, offline with webhooks, etc. And then empowering them with AI, automation, preference centers. Great, we were talking about preference centers today, allowing you to sort of segment your data, but also connect with people on a number of different channels. So email is our bread and butter, but SMS, social, mobile, WhatsApp, chat, live chat has been a great thing at the moment. But we allow people to connect with their customers on a number of different channels. And I think that's another thing to add to a preference center as well, is what channel you'd like to be contacted on. So we're helping a number of people contact their databases in the best way possible, and we allow ease and speed of use.
Cool. And I believe you got an offer for the listeners as well.
Yes. So not a specific offer necessarily, but if you go through to our website, .digital.com/pages/offers, you'll be able to get offers there, and you'll be able to get the best thing for you.
Awesome. I love it. Well, look, Gavin, thanks so much for being on the Keep Optimizing podcast today. It's been great, as it always is, to catch up with you. So thanks for sharing your email marketing expertise with us.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure to catch up with Gavin because he's so knowledgeable about email marketing, especially those more sophisticated tactics that many of us never quite get around to putting in place. And hopefully we've changed that today. He also makes it just so clear what we should be doing with our preference centres. It's certainly an area I know I've made mistakes in or got confused about in the past. It's one of those areas where you go, I know I need a preference centre, but I just can't quite work out what to put in it. So you never quite get anywhere. And I think after everything he said in this episode, you should be able to get past that and start making preference centres be a key part of how you go about improving the performance and the return on investment of your email marketing, which is what we're here to help you do. Now, you can get links to everything Gavin and I discussed, the full transcript of the episode, important notes and more at keepoptimizing.com, and that's optimizing with an S, not a Z. Please do let me know what you think about the episode too. Now, the easiest way to do that is via Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag keepoptimizing. As part of my mission to help you improve your marketing, I've invited all 5 of our email marketing specialists to join us for a Q&A webinar at the end of the month. That's going to be your chance to get your questions answered. So if you've been deliberating over exactly what to put in your preference centre, come along and ask the question. You'll get Gavin's point of view and that of the rest of our specialists. Now, I know a lot of you love the questions I ask, but I'm sure you've got some of your own. So please do get registered for the webinar. Anything on email marketing, we'll take questions on all of it. To get registered, just go to keepoptimizing.com. And remember, that's optimizing with an S, not a Z. And there you will find out all the details of how to sign up. The webinar is totally free, and it'll be lovely to see some of you there. So I get to connect with you and find out more about what you like about the podcast and maybe what you don't like too. So thank you very much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. If you're new, then please do check out episode 4, where I'm talking everything email capture with the marvelous Kate Barrett, because that one really fits nicely with what you've learned in this episode. And please do tell your fellow marketers about the show because, as I said, I'm on a mission to help as many marketers as possible to improve the performance of their marketing. One of the easiest ways to spread the word is to take part in our launch competition. Kudos to you for holding out right to the end to find out how to enter the competition. And what you can win is a Keep Optimizing podcast t-shirt. Yes, we're going to be giving a t-shirt away every week in July and August. To be in with a chance of winning, what you need to do is find the show on Apple Podcasts. So search for Keep Optimizing on Apple Podcasts. Once you've found us, hit subscribe and then rate and review the show. Then take a screen grab of your review and share that on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag Keep Optimizing. So that's KEEPOPTIMISING. Okay, so hashtag Keep Optimizing. We're gathering up all those entries. We'll be sharing and liking them as well, give you a bit of kudos. And then each Wednesday, we'll pick one winner totally randomly, and that person will win a t-shirt. So we'll get in contact, ask you what size you want, etc., and then get it on its way to you. We're going to be doing that until the 2nd of September. Full details about the competition and everything else to do with the show are at keepoptimizing.com with an S, not a Z. And I hope I get to send you out a t-shirt very, very soon, because that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Now, make sure you have a great week and listen in to the next episode so I can help you to keep optimizing your marketing.
Access everything Keep Optimizing at keepoptimizing.com. That's with an S, not a Z.